Welcome to the Christian Woman Leadership Podcast, where we hope to inspire you to embrace your God-given gifts, skills, and passions in order to lead with confidence. We want you to remember that you are fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God, and that you are fully loved by Him. You have been designed on purpose by God with unique gifts and passions in order to love and lead those around you. I'm your host, Esther Littlefield, a pastor's wife, business owner, mom, and writer. My co-host is Holly Kane, and together we chat about important issues that Christian women leaders face. In addition, we interview other women just like you who lead in various roles from church to community to business. Through this podcast, we offer you encouragement, tools, and resources to help you on your leadership journey. We are so glad you're here with us. Hi friend, I'm your host Esther Littlefield, and today I'm bringing you an episode that will help you put into action a lot of what Holly and I have been discussing over the past several weeks. As you know, we've talked about goal setting and creating habits, and I thought it would be helpful to share some of my favorite tools for doing this in my own life. And the good news is that these are not things that I use only one time per year. Most of what I will share are tools that I use on a daily or weekly basis. I'm also a big believer in finding what works for you. So don't feel like you have to use all the tools that I share here. In fact, you might decide to do something totally different, but I hope that this will simply be a starting point to help you. So let's jump in to the tools that I use for goal setting. The first tool I want to tell you about is one you've definitely heard me mention before, and that is the POWERSHEETS from Cultivate What Matters. This is an intentional goal planner, which helps you to do a lot of the things we've been talking about on our podcast episodes about goal setting. It will help you reflect on the past, dream about the future, and then actually break out and create your goals. In it, you will be able to put down why you have that goal. You'll be able to identify the smaller steps and how you will celebrate. There's lots of extra wonderful things in the POWERSHEETS that we didn't even talk about in the last several episodes that you will be able to explore and use when you start diving in. There's also quarterly sections which allow you to reassess your goals, make changes, and update as needed. And then there's sections for each month of the year and something called a tending list, which will help you keep track of some of your action items that you've broken down from your bigger goals. The tending list also helps you to track some of your daily habits. And as you know from episode 31, habits are really the key to accomplishing your goals and following through on what you set out to do. So the POWERSHEETS have a 1-year version and a 6-month version. Personally, I usually buy the 1 year because I want the full year. And at the time of this recording, there are still some 1-year POWERSHEETS for 2019 available. It's not too late to get it, even though this episode is airing in February. I wouldn't hesitate to still jump in and grab one if you feel like this tool would be helpful for you. And I can't guarantee that they will still be available because they usually do sell out. But at this time, they are still available and there is a sale going on as well. So you can hop over to estherlittlefield.com/POWERSHEETS and you can check out to see what's still available on the website. So that's my first tool that I want to recommend to you. The second tool that I want to mention to you for goal setting and planning is Trello. We've mentioned this one before as well, but I want to spend a little bit more time telling you about it and telling you why I love it so much. So first of all, what is Trello? If you're not familiar with it, it's a free online project management tool, and you can also use it as an app on your phone. So there's other similar tools out there, such as Asana and Basecamp and many others, and I've tried a lot of them, but honestly, Trello has been the only one that I have fallen in love with and that I've stuck with using. I will tell you that it took me a little while to get used to it, and I had to give myself time to learn how I would personally use it and adapt it to my own style. And the cool thing about Trello is that it's super flexible, so you can really use it in a variety of ways. So the first thing I want you to know about Trello is that it is free. So you can get a free account at Trello.com. You just go over there, you sign up, and you will get your account. I'll put the links for all of this in the show notes, so don't worry about writing these things down that I mentioned, but you'll be able to just go to the show notes and click through. So some of the benefits of Trello are that it's visual. So if you are like me and you like to see things visually, whether it's planning out a project or your to-do list or anything really, you can do that in Trello because it's very visual. So that's one of the reasons I love it. You can also customize the backgrounds. So you can have plain color backgrounds. You can also have, photos, backgrounds, all kinds of things. So that's kind of cool as well. It's also flexible. So I already mentioned this, but the way you use Trello can really be done in a lot of different ways. It's not a fixed style of project planning. So you can create lists, you can create columns, you can create cards and checklists. There's all kinds of features that you can use in a variety of ways. So you can use this tool to do a number of things. You can plan or manage a big project, like I mentioned. You can plan your weekly meals, or you can keep track of the tasks that need to get done in your house on a weekly basis. You can manage your business or your ministry within Trello. I know a lot of churches that use Trello to manage all the things that they have going on a daily or weekly basis. So one of the ways that I use Trello is for my goals and then for planning my action items that relate to those goals. I do this specifically for my business, but I also have started to do it for my personal goals as well. And I really love using the checklist feature, which is fun because you can see how many things you've checked off along the way. I also use it to manage my entire business and all of my client work. So that is something that has honestly allowed me to stay organized and keep track of everything that's going on in my business that I would just not be able to keep track of in my head. So if you are someone who needs to write things down or to keep track of things outside of your head, which I think is all of us, then this tool may be helpful for you. So it's also a great tool for breaking down the big goals into smaller action items and then into daily habits or tasks. Holly has a training all about how to use Trello to implement the 12-week year that we talked about in episode 28. So she actually recorded a video training that shows you how she is using Trello to keep track of all of her goals and then to manage them on a week-to-week basis. And that is one of the trainings that's available in our Confident Leader Club. So if you've never used Trello, though, I want to let you know not to worry because I have created a free training for you just to give you the basics of getting started with Trello. And in that, you'll see a video that will show you exactly how to set up your account and how to get started with Trello and just the basics of getting started. So hopefully that will help you if this is a new tool and you've never used it before. The next tool I want to share with you that I use for goal setting and planning is pen and paper. So this might seem a little silly, but pen and paper is still one of my favorite tools for goal setting and for planning out my life, my weeks, my days. A lot of times I do love the digital versions of things, but sometimes just the physical action of writing things out with pen and paper, there's something different about it. So I will often do a brain dump. I will just jot down everything that I can think of that I have to do, and it will be disorganized. It will not make any sense, but it will be out of my head. And then I can take and translate that information into Trello or into a planner somewhere else in a more organized fashion. But just having the pen and paper available and jotting it down is super helpful. So another thing you can do with a pen and paper that is because it's visual and because it's a blank slate, so to speak, is just do a mind map. And a mind map is where you're going to be able to have a lot of different concepts in different parts of your paper that are connected, and you can have lines and circles, and you can jot down all kinds of ideas in each area of the paper. And so again, it's a way to kind of get out of your head onto paper some of the things that you might want to be accomplishing, or an idea for something that you want to start. A mind map can be really helpful. You can also just draw and doodle and brainstorm and dream on paper in a way that you can't do, I think, on other tools. So again, a lot of times I will use pen and paper to do some of this to get it out of my head, and then I will put it into Trello, or I will put it onto a calendar or planner, which is what we're going to talk about next. So let's talk about actually figuring out our time and our schedule. So once you have your goals set and you've got your action items figured out, you want to have a place where you're going to actually assign time and basically tell yourself what to do. I see a calendar and a schedule kind of like a time budget. So we all have the same amount of hours in our day, and we just need to budget our time based on what our priorities are and what needs to be happening in our daily life. So there's often a big debate in calendars and schedules as to should you use digital or should you use paper? Phone and computer versus your traditional paper planner. And there's people in both camps. And I'll tell you, I'm in both camps myself. I use both. So typically what I do is I will have my schedule really mapped out on my digital calendar, which I'll tell you about. But then I also use my paper planner to keep track more of my tasks for the day or for the week, as well as just a basic idea of my schedule. So I'm going to start with telling you a little bit about the paper planners that I have used and that I'm currently using. So the first thing I'll tell you is that in the past, I have gotten really elaborate with my planners, and I have used a lot of the very beautiful planners that are out there. I've tried a lot of different ones, but the one I'm going to mention that I really did enjoy was a planner from Inkwell Press. And I'll put some photos of this in the show notes, but it's really beautiful to look at. It has high quality, thick paper, which is awesome. It doesn't bleed through. And it also has places for goal setting and assessing different aspects of your life. So if you're more of an all-in-one type of person and you want everything in one place, then this planner might be a good option for you. Because I use the POWERSHEETS and I was using the Inkwell Press planner, I was finding myself putting information in two different places, and I was not really using either one effectively in the way that they're designed to be used. So I decided to step away from using a more elaborate planner and just switch to a very simplified planner for 2019. So the planner I'm using this year is called the 2019 Essential Daily Planner from Amazon. And again, I will pop the link into the show notes so you can see it. But it's very basic. It's got a spiral bound, it's a spiral bound notebook, but it has monthly and weekly views. It allows me to have space for writing what I'm doing each day, but it doesn't have a big section for goals or reflecting or task management. It doesn't have a huge extra space for all of that. Okay. So what I do like is that for each day, it has a column, and the top half is just dotted lines and the bottom half is broken into hourly blocks. So I like that because I use the top half for my task list. For the day, I can see, okay, these are the tasks I'm going to try to get done today. And then on the bottom, I can still have my hourly appointments. And that helps me just to have a visual of what's happening that day. So this brings me to another option that I've used in the past, which again, I'm not using currently, but in the past, I've also tried bullet journaling. And some people love bullet journaling. You will find if you Google or search on Pinterest for bullet journaling, you will find so many resources for this particular method of planning and scheduling. So what it is it's basically a plain notebook that maybe has lines, maybe is blank. It might have the dots. A lot of people use the dotted notebooks for this. And what it will do is it will allow you to basically create your own structure and your own system for how you want to plan your days, your weeks, your months. And if you search some of these resources for bullet journaling, you will find a lot of different recommendations and visual pictures of how you can set it up. It's really awesome for creative people because it allows you to create what is beautiful to you. It's also great for people that like checkboxes and drawing things and creating their own schedule. So one of our listeners, Tabitha, actually shared with me and shared in our Purposeful Leadership Facebook group about how she uses her bullet journal to help with her habit tracking. And she also shared a picture on Instagram. So I'm going to link to that in the show notes so you can see a visual of one of our own women who's part of our community who's using this particular method. So again, I have used this method in the past. I didn't stick with it. So I decided I need to use something that I will stick with. And for me, it's using this basic planner and then my digital version, which I'm going to tell you about next. Okay, so now I want to tell you about my favorite tool for my schedule, which is Google Calendar. When it comes to knowing what appointments I have going on and how my time is planned out for the week, I am a die-hard fan of Google Calendar. So personally, I use it on my desktop, on my computer, and on my phone. I have downloaded the app, so I have access to my calendar 24/7. Well, whenever I have my phone with me. So if I'm out and about and I go to a dentist appointment or a doctor's appointment and they schedule me for the next appointment, I can pop it in there right away. Before I did this, I was constantly taking the card that they give you at the appointment. I was popping that into my purse, and then I would forget about it and not add it into my calendar. And then inevitably, it would cause a problem later on. So now I try to just enter things right away as soon as the appointment is made, and I don't have to keep track of the paper that is handed to me. Okay, so that's one of the reasons I love using this version of the calendar. Another thing is that you can set up repeating appointments on Google Calendar. So a lot of us have things that happen every single week, the same day, the same time. So every Sunday I have church. That's a repeating appointment. I can put that on my calendar, and it might seem silly to put church on my calendar, but it just visually shows me, okay, that day and time is blocked off. That's a priority for me. I want to make sure that nothing else gets put into that spot. Visually, it lets me see where my time is going. So with Google Calendar, you can look at it on a week view, a month view, or a day view. And I typically look at it for the full week, and I like to see what's coming up over the next several days. Another benefit of using this is that it allows you to be available or unavailable. So on each appointment, you can choose whether you are busy or available, so that if you have some other booking software that might be connected to your calendar for business purposes or church purposes, it will allow you to have something booked during certain time frames or not. So for example, sometimes I might have on my calendar a block of time that says podcast interviews. And that's actually time that I want to visually see that that's my plan, but I want people to be able to book those appointments when they go to my calendar to book. So there's ways to do that. This also helps me to tell my time where to go rather than allowing my day to run me. So I don't know if you have run into this, but a lot of times I think we get to the end of a day and we look back and we wonder, where did my time go? What did I do today? What did I accomplish? And there are certainly seasons of life when that is just the reality. If you are a mom and you've got young kids at home, your day might simply be at home and be a mom. And that might be what is on your calendar, and that is okay. And so I don't want to make anybody feel badly if that is what it looks like for you, because there's nothing wrong with that. But what you might want to do is you might want to put on your Google Calendar just all day. You might want to put on there mom mom life, whatever it is that will help you to remember. If you go back and look, you can see, okay, that's what I was doing that day. I was at home, I was being a mom. Or if you work a 9-to-5 job, you put in that block of time, you know, okay, that's what I was doing. I was working my 9-to-5 job. Or I was out and I was working at the church. I was volunteering. Basically, you are able to see and you are able to be in control of your calendar when you block off these different times. So I'm just going to tell you briefly what my process is, and I'm going to tell you a way that you can get more details and visually see, because this is definitely a visual tool. And it's hard to explain on the podcast, but I'm going to just quickly run through what I do. I set up any appointments that I know I have. So when I look at my calendar and I open it up for the week or for the month, I will pop in anything that I know that's coming up. I'll talk to my husband. We'll check in, see what's going on so that we make sure anything that's really big and important is on the calendar. I also set up those work hours, the hours that I plan on working for the week or for the month. And I also set my personal time. I put in time that I want to have for my quiet time. I put in personal time to go to exercise class or to go have lunch with a friend. I put that in the calendar. I also want to make sure that my goals and my priorities are reflected on the calendar. So it visually lets me see where I'm spending my time, and I can check in and say, okay, does this line up with what my goals are for the year or for the month? And then I also want to make sure that I have breaks and white space in my calendar. And this has probably been the hardest thing for me because I want to be as productive as possible and I want to make sure that my time is used wisely. So my tendency has been to fill up every block of time that I possibly can. And what I'm learning to do is to actually put in breaks and put in just empty space. So space where nothing is going to be scheduled and it's just time to be, So that is my process for using Google Calendar. I created a video training all about how I use Google Calendar, showing a lot of the tips and tricks about how to do a lot of the things that I just shared with you. And again, that's another one of the trainings that's available in our goals module in the Confident Leader Club. So you can check it out if you join us there. So next I want to share with you a few tools for habits, because again, we know that habits are the way that we can accomplish a lot of the goals that we set. So here's a few tools that I would recommend or that I've used. The first one, like I mentioned before, is that within the PowerSheets, you can have a tending list. And that is a monthly piece of paper that you can tear out from the PowerSheets, and it will allow you to track those daily habits that you want to do. Another thing you can do is create your own habit tracker. So again, that is something that a lot of people that use the bullet journaling method will do, and they will simply mark off each day that they do the habit. A lot of things that we use on our phones have built-in habit trackers. And they're not called that, but that's basically what they are. So for example, if you use the YouVersion Bible app, you can keep track of each day that you read the Bible. If you follow one of the plans in that app, you will be able to check off each day that you complete the day's reading. And then the Bible app will show you how many days you've been reading in a row. And if you enjoy seeing that, it's kind of a cool thing to pop in and say, oh, I'm on a 3-week streak. I haven't missed a day. Okay. So that's something that's available. There's also a lot of fitness apps that have habit trackers built in as well. So just about any fitness app that you download on your phone will have a feature that will allow you to set a goal for exercise, and that will allow you to track when you exercise, how long you exercised for, etc. And like for me, I use the Fitbit, and so the Fitbit has an app, and of course I have it on my wrist, but it tells me every time I hit my steps for the day. I get a buzz on my wrist, but then I also can see in the app how many days in a row or how many days for the month I have hit that goal. So again, simple things that you can do that allow you just to incorporate it into your daily life. rather than creating a whole new system to follow, I encourage you to look at ways that you could incorporate habits and habit tracking into what you're already doing. Another place that you could get a habit tracker is from the book Atomic Habits. If you buy that book, you will get access to a free PDF habit tracker that James Clear created for this very purpose. So I was able to download the PDF, and I can print that off if I want and use that, or I could just use it as a basis for creating my own process. He also has a journal for habit tracking, and there are a lot of other habit tracking type journals out there. Because again, the research does show that sticking with habits, creating habits, is the best way to make progress in your life and to reach your goals. So that really sums up the tools that I wanted to share with you for goal setting, for planning, and for habit tracking. It's nothing groundbreaking, but I hope that just hearing what I'm using in my daily life will help you decide what to use for yourself, to see what might work for you. You can try out some of the things that I've shared, see if it will work for you. And again, you will see just hearing my experience that I didn't necessarily stick with everything that I tried. But the point is, you try things until you find what's going to work for you. Thank you for joining me today for this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. And I did mention that the Confident Leader Club is a place where we have some additional resources and trainings for you, like some of the trainings I mentioned in this conversation. So I want to encourage you to check it out. You can head over to confidentleaderclub.com. It's a place where you're going to get additional community and access to other like-minded women who are on the same leadership journey as you. It will also provide you opportunities for growth, which is like these additional bonus trainings and content that I'm creating on a monthly basis for you. And then the third aspect is action. I want you to take action on what you're learning, hear what you hear on the podcast, as well as what you get access to in the club. We have accountability and conversations in our private group where we talk about what we're working on, the habits we're creating, and things like that. So I would love to have you join us. Head over to confidentleaderclub.com to learn more, and I will talk to you next week. Thanks for joining us on the Christian Woman Leadership Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving us a rating and review in your podcast app? This helps more women just like you find the podcast, and it also helps them to know whether the podcast would be a good fit for them. Just go to the show in your podcast app, then scroll down until you see the option for ratings and reviews. From there, you can tap to rate and write a review. It means the world to us when you take a couple minutes to do this, and thank you so much to everyone who has left a review. Now, don't forget, your leadership matters, and it's time for you to embrace your gifts and lead with confidence.